Local elections take place across the UK on Thursday the 6th of May. With a population of 12,000, Cambridge Ward covers areas of Churchtown, Crosslands and Marshside. There are 4 candidates standing for 1 available seat. Let's meet the candidates from Cambridge Ward. The seat will be contested by Conservative Sinclair d'Albuquerque, Carla Fox of the Green Party, Liberal Democrat Pat Keith and Laura Lunn-Bates of the Labour Party. The elected individual will join sitting ward councillors Leo Evans of the Liberal Democrats and Mike Morris of the Conservatives.
So my name's Sinclair d'Albuquerque. I'm possibly going to be the longest name on the ballot sheet. I'm the Conservative Party candidate for Cambridge Ward.
Hi, I'm Laura Lunn-Bates. I'm the Labour Party candidate for Cambridge Ward.
Hello, I'm Pat Keith and I'm the Lib Dem candidate in Cambridge Ward in Southport.
So I deeply care about the ward where I live, which is obviously Cambridge Ward. I live there with my wife Laura and our daughter Annabelle. We are constantly visiting our wonderful parks. We exercise in the ward. My daughter attends primary school in the ward and she's about to be moving to secondary school in the coming months. All of which is in the ward. The secondary school she'll be attending is possibly one of the best secondary schools in Southport and again happens to be in the ward.
So I'm 26, I currently am at Edgehill University studying biology. I was born and bred in Southport, I grew up here, I went to Lineker Primary School and Greenbank High School, and I remember weekends and holidays at the 2p machines at Funland and on the rides at Pleasureland, and it was a really great place to grow up.
Well, I was born, bred and buttered in Belfast, and then I came to live in Southport, just trying to think what age my oldest child is, 34 years ago. And I owe Southport a great debt of gratitude because my children had great educations here in state schools, did very well. I have made lots of friends, lifelong friends, from living in Southport. And I started a business, a childcare business, and again the success of that is owed to the people of Southport.
I've run hospitality businesses in Southport for decades on behalf of national companies. And just under 5 years ago, we decided to invest in our own hospitality business on Horton Street, which was equally as successful. And we're about to invest in a business on Lord Street, which we plan on opening in the next couple of months, which will create some much needed local jobs.
And then my daughter had got involved with the Liberal Democrats locally, and she was standing as a councillor, so I started helping her and knocking on doors and all the rest of it. And she lost by she lost by about 16 votes. And then she went to work in London, and I thought, well, I like what the Lib Dems are doing locally, and it seems a waste of all the work that she's put in. So I'll have a go and I'll stand. And I won and was successful. So I've been a councillor now since 2012. Great privilege to be a councillor in Cambridge Ward and great fun as well.
But what kind of got me into politics was the tuition fees issue. When I was a teenager, I wrote to my MP because I was worried about the tuition fees and the lifelong debt that would bring. And I was told that if Lib Dems got into power, that they would wipe tuition fees. That didn't happen. I was lied to. And ever since then, I've been an avid campaigner and have campaigned across the country. And I was actually elected to the National Executive Committee of the NUS.
Many have contacted me about the deterioration of Southport and the closure of many of our high street shops. This has had an effect on our ward as many residents visit and work in Southport. And certainly the town centre.
But what I would say is all these issues stem from over 10 years of Tory austerity. Outside our ward, we see empty streets on the high street. In our ward, we see families that are struggling between paying rent and paying for food, having to rely on food banks and baby banks. And this should not be the case.
Well, I think the most important issue for everybody is, of course, the awful COVID pandemic, and the repercussions are coming down the track at all of us. Nobody has escaped People have lost their loved ones, education have suffered, people's health, mental health, physical health. So that's going to be a huge, huge problem for everybody.
And with the help of our Conservative MP, Damien Moore, the town secured £37.5 million through the Town Deal initiative. This was the joint largest amount in anywhere in the country. Central government investment into Southport will see our high street and facilities transformed, and in turn will attract smaller retail and hospitality investors like myself, who will be encouraged to open businesses in our town, starting a new and much brighter chapter in our town story. I've also been gaining some publicity. You may have seen it in videos that I've made around cycle lanes and the positioning of them in town. That's worked quite well, and I've been campaigning as well for residents of Knobhall Lane, which is a small lane around the corner from where I live, which has some big problems with giant potholes, meaning that some of the residents couldn't even access their own properties. So that seems to be gaining momentum as well, and we're hoping to have some traction on that in the coming months.
And we have elderly residents who, in COVID, have not been able to see their families, they've not been able to hug loved ones, and their TV has been their lifeline to the wider community. But yet the Tories have scrapped the over 75 TV licence, and this should not be the case. And lastly, we're seeing public transport being used for profit. We're seeing bus companies axe routes that aren't giving them enough profit, which means that residents go without public transport.
But on the local council issues, most of the problems are about potholes and dog mess and speeding traffic and housing issues. But I think people as a whole want Southport to thrive and do well. And we sometimes forget just what a lovely place we live in, how fortunate we are. And I think if we could get rail links set up, we've got a great rail link into Liverpool, it's fantastic. And if we could get something similar to have a speedy rail link to Manchester, we could get people living and investing in this town.
So Sefton Labour Council have made some incredibly poor decisions. The 2017 purchase of the Strand shopping centre in Bootle for £32.5 million was clearly a huge investment mistake, which will cost all of us through increased council tax payments.
People should vote for me as a Labour councillor in Cambridge Ward because I will provide a fresh, dynamic voice for change. You've never had a Labour councillor in Cambridge Ward before, and for too long now we've had Lib Dems and Tories play party politics with your issues. It's time for that to change.
Why should people vote for me? Well, it's about accountability, isn't it? I have been a councillor since 2012, and I haven't sat about on my laurels. When I first got elected, people were saying, oh, look at the litter, it's all scattered all over Southport, it's shocking. So I helped set up the Rubbish Friends litter group. And we're not just there to get our picture taken, we've been doing it now for 8 years. Not at the minute because of COVID, but we will be back in June, starting again with all our great litter heroes.
So Labour Sefton basically needs to be held to account for some of their poor decisions, and should I be elected, I aim to be a strong voice on the council and to hold them to account for the expenditure of our council tax. And at ward level, there are a number of issues affecting residents, including the poor state of many of our roads, dog fouling, maintenance of our parks and green spaces, all of which I have been contacted about by residents and will look to resolve should I be elected. I have started to implement my plan with the help of affected residents to resolve some of these issues immediately. As I've previously said, I live in the ward. I'm passionate and I deeply care about the ward, and I want it to be the best place for you and I to live, visit and to bring up our families. Southport has a great future ahead with the recently announced investment, and I will be a voice on the council to ensure that future investment will benefit the town and all of us.
We need a brand new voice, and I will listen, because what issues matter to you matter to me, because it's about us as a community coming together and fighting. And whether you care about potholes, housing, elderly social care, or even just keeping the streets clean, I will listen to what matters to you, because we've seen in this pandemic how people have come together and fought for each other, and I'll do that. I'll fight for you if I'm elected as your councillor, vote Labour on May the 6th.
So I think, I haven't, as I said, I've not sat back on my laurels. I have worked hard and people have voted for me in the past. I hope they will do in the future. I think they might do. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'll have to wait and we'll have to see. But it's been a great time for me. Whatever the outcome is in May, I've had a great time.